Any reason to wait?
No, let's go.
Jess, you ready to roll? Call this meeting to order, the USD 49 Board of Education Board meeting for Monday, July 22nd, 2019. First order of business on the agenda is the second order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion passes, what do we have, 5-2-0. All right, the third item on the agenda is to move to executive session. I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session pursuant the personnel transactions exemption to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The subject of the executive session is to discuss personnel transactions. The open session will resume at 6:45, giving us 15 minutes. Those persons who attend the, in addition to the Board of Education, are the superintendent, assistant superintendent. I think that's all we need. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we're going to meet in this room.
Oh, that's correct. We're
Save
changing. We're
steps
going to meet next door in the master teacher.
Master teacher.
All those in favor say aye. Okay, I'm going to go and call the meeting back to order. Right on time, too. All right. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Wait a minute, is that right? Yes, it is. Okay. The board will consider approval of the consent agenda. Items to be approved by the board are listed in the agenda posted online. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved and
Second.
seconded. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1. Oh, you know what? I didn't ask for discussion. You want to discuss why you didn't? Okay.
No, it's good.
Just being a rebel, huh?
There you go.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is to give folks in the audience a chance to speak to the board, if you would like to do so.
I would, if you would mind.
Sure thing.
Good opportunity for me to thank Rusty publicly. If you haven't seen what's going on at Hayes High School, we are painting the pig big time this summer. So come out and see all the good projects we have going. Everywhere from a varsity boys locker room to beautiful shiny floors. The secured entryway is in the process. Carpet in our library was completed last week. It's just making a world of difference in our building. So Rusty, thank you, and your guys, especially Jeff and Rex, they're just working tirelessly. But come out and see our building. It's not put together yet, but it's going to be nice when the kids get there. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board on that issue? Except we need to get out to the Hayes High and see this. Anybody else want to say anything? All righty. Move on to item number 6, presentations. Ron, do you want to lead this off, or?
Yeah, I think O'Laughlin has some really cool things happening this summer that is going to be even more exciting come August 14th for a lot of kids at O'Laughlin. So tonight we have Vicki Guile and Elena Cunningham to talk a little bit about the O'Laughlin playground. So I'll let you guys take it over.
I hear you.
Hi, I'm Vicki. Yeah, we have actually for the last 3 years have been working on a playground project simply because we have one playground piece that is definitely getting to the point where it's not really sustainable as far as fixing anything that's breaking on the piece, the safety of the kids, different things like that. So we knew that there was at least one of our pieces that was needing replaced. Fortunately, I've had the great pleasure of having one of my PTA moms, officers that has been working on it for the last 3 years, and so she really is the one that has been the driving force of doing all the research, looking into design, you know, what's the best design for getting the movement out of the kids, and you know, contacting Rusty. She's been in contact with John when John was still here, and Rusty and the other principals that have put in playground pieces. And so all the credit really goes to Elena Cunningham for driving this, and I'll just go ahead and turn the mic over to her because, like I said, she's done a great job and deserves a lot of credit for the work that she's done for our kids. So.
Well, thank you, Vicki. It has been a long 3 years, but we are very excited to be where we are. I first want to make it known that we only were able to pull this off finally because Heartland Community Foundation awarded us a $10,000 grant. So I just want to thank them because without that, we would still be raising money. So as you can see, that's the design, and that is the equipment that's going to be installed. The color scheme will match the existing equipment, so that red, blue, and yellow, so that it kind of coordinates, plus those are O'Loughlin's colors. So other than that, that picture there is what will be coming. Installation should actually start next week. Rusty and his crew have been working diligently to get the site prepped and ready for us. One of the great things with the pieces we chose, it's going to come with a curriculum that can be used by the physical education instructor if they choose. So it'll have lots of programs where they can use that to supplement and do outdoor activities with the kids. It's all approved for ADA, so everything there meets code and is accessible for all of those kids. There's a chair you can see in that alternate view there that is specifically designed for kids with special needs. Then we've got the arch swing, which you've seen that Lincoln has, and Wilson has one as well, and those help with sensory things also. We're really excited. If you guys have any questions, please.
What's the ground cover going to be on that? Is it bark or is it?
Yep, we
something?
worked with Rusty. So O'Laughlin had the rubber
Right.
mulch, and we worked with him. That's not the preference because of the maintenance and the cost of it. And so since we had to dig it out anyways, the district actually is replacing it with those engineered wood fibers, so it will match what everyone else has and be less cost to maintain.
Very good.
So yeah.
Is Rusty and his crew then basically doing all the install and everything on there then? Or do we
Note
have a
the
team
install
coming out?
is covered. We are paying for that. That is with the price of the equipment came the install with it. Rusty and his crew did the site prep as far as taking out that existing mulch, digging down and settling the surface and getting it deep enough and level, and then working on some concrete that we have to add for that. Where we're putting that arch swing, our concrete didn't connect there, so that way there's a border around the entire playground. And then they worked to remove the existing piece that came out. So yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, the install is actually done by the company that we ordered it from, and they will be here next week to do that.
Wow, that's
So
great.
yeah.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
So you're getting rid of the, I don't remember what it's called, but when my kids were there was some kind of thing where you'd slide across and
A zip
nobody
line?
could use it because it was too dangerous, so we're getting rid of that thing, I think, right?
That thing is
Oh, zip
actually
line, that's
still
what it is.
there. Yes.
Okay, then maybe people are using it, but I just,
Yeah, the kids actually do like it.
oh, okay, good.
I think this is included in your information you guys have. It's an aerial
I
view.
didn't see
This
it.
is our existing outline, or what was our existing outline. So this smaller equipment, which is designed more for K through 3, and then the little zip line you're talking about is this blue line here. Those are staying.
Okay.
So the yellow outline that you see, that was the oldest blue piece of equipment where slides were unable to be replaced or fixed. Bolts were falling out. We had places on it that we had to board up for safety because of slides that had to come off of it. So that was the piece we chose to remove. Plus then we were able to get a large piece that could go in that area.
All right.
So yeah.
Then I should clarify that as an old person, it seemed dangerous, but I guess it's fun for the kids.
Yeah. Well, I think Vicky could say for sure, but I think the rule on the playground is if you're not tall enough to grab onto it, then you
maybe that
can't
was
use it.
Yeah, we do have student expectations that we go over every year, and it's kind of like each different grade level has, I guess, behavior expectations. This is what you can and can't do.
Sure,
So that was
sure.
taken into consideration when it comes to that zip line.
I got you.
So,
So maybe when I was there were some younger kids trying to use it and they weren't supposed to be using it. That's probably what was going
well,
on.
that could
And this
be.
is years ago. This was
Sure.
many, many years ago.
Any other questions?
Stop embarrassing myself.
So expectations, probably the water at the top of the slide with a hose wouldn't be out of the question too. I think that'd be a lot of fun. That looks like a cool slide. Yeah, that looks like a cool slide. Get a little water, whew.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the hard work you put into this.
Oh, yeah.
And,
No, thank you guys.
Rusty too, back there. Who's a great addition to the district.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Try to be funny and embarrass myself. That's the way I do it. All right. Now we're moving to reports. First report is a review and update of the fiscal year 2018-19 with budget transfers. Keith Hall.
Okay. Dust is kind of cleared on last year's budget, and we know exactly where we're at. What you're looking at right now is their expenditures and cash balances by the fund for the year. We ended the year with $290,000 to transfer from supplemental and general, which is lines on this document 1 and 2. What that means is after the bills were paid in LOB and general fund, we had $290,000 left. That represents a little less than 1% of the budget in those two funds. I think that's something we should look at trying to increase. That's a pretty thin line. Rule of thumb is that you'd like to have 2 or 3% to start the year. I would lobby for 3%, but we ended the year on a positive note as far as in the plus side, and that's what really matters. When you look at transfers for the end of the year with that $290,000, first of all, you've got a couple things you look at, no particular order. You look for ways to loosen up the budget in the general fund for the following year, and common places for transfers for that would be special ed and CTE, or the vocational area. If you look at our budget, special ed on this page, line 78, would be a good place to go. We should look at trying to carry over a little money in that too. What's a good rule of thumb there is amount equal to 1 quarterly payment in that account, which is $425,000, and we're carrying over close to $70,000 right now. So that's a place that we considered when we were talking about this. And then also vocational is a place that it helps to have a budget to start the year. Some districts don't do that, and that works too. If you do transfer those funds, for all practical purposes, those funds are locked into those accounts. So the other option is to look for flexibility. That would mean, first of all, in contingency. If a board makes a motion to use that money, it gives you the flexibility as long as you have a board motion. I've been to enough meetings here that there is an effort to build up contingency, which we certainly need to do for at least 1 month of salaries. And those salaries, that'd be about $1.7 million. And if you want to add the benefit side in there, that's $600,000. So we'd be looking at $2.2 million eventually in contingency. So going through this, the first time in this district, I felt like we should put it in contingency. You guys have been, the board has been looking to bump that up, and it also gives you the flexibility to use that money if you feel like you need to. I hope we wouldn't have to, especially with the new money coming in, but it doesn't lock you into anything. So that's why we went the direction we did. Questions about that so far?
Anyone? No?
Okay.
We're good to go?
All right. Other things to note, we do have a significant balance in supplemental general that we don't have the authority to spend. I assume that's carryover that's built up over the years. My goal in the next budget, this next budget system that I will share with you, and you'll make a decision on, the final decision, is to keep the mill levy flat, which with the carryover we have in there, that shouldn't be a problem. It's $680,000. But the system doesn't allow you to publish high enough to let you spend that money, so it'll just carry over. So that would be the balance. If you look at the balance section on line 2, you would see that. Okay, that's a little bit of an unusual situation for me that I didn't have in my former districts. But so you could drop the mill levy or keep it flat. I would recommend you keep it flat. That way, there's not a lot of like a roller coaster system in your mill levy. Any questions about that carryover balance there? Okay. Finally, on the federal lines, that would be lines 73, 74, 91, 95, 97, 98. You'll see that there's signified by parentheses, there's negatives there. We're required to spend the money first, and then we're reimbursed for the federal funds. So that's why that looks that way. Right. And this is just a little bit of just a comment about budget philosophy. Like I said, we carried over $290,000 for a district this size. That's not a lot of money. It probably should be $750,000, $500,000. You know, we paid $421,000 just on electricity, just to kind of give you some perspective. All utilities is $640,000. So $300,000 isn't a lot of money for the district this size. But you are spending it on kids, so that's a good thing too. But just something to think about as we go through this next budget process as far as, I think it'd be fiscally responsible to maybe look at trying to increase those a little bit. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Can we pull money, let's say, you mentioned the federal programs, sometimes we have to pay up front and then get reimbursed. Can we pull money from contingency funds for that? Is that,
We could.
We could.
If by board motion you could, you know, you wouldn't. You probably
we haven't
wouldn't
had
want
to, but I'm just saying as an emergency situation
Sure,
or something?
sure.
Yeah.
That's what that money's there. That would, but those are all pre-planned items for, you know, drawdown, so.
Very good.
Well, one example would be, let's say the state gets in a budget crunch, and this is why you'd want the salaries, so the state gets in a budget crunch. If you have that money in contingency, you can pay salary and benefits, then you can go right along your merry way and not your employees don't feel that bump. That's one reason for that.
Sure.
As things happen.
No, I understand, yeah.
For
I would imagine a
contingency.
key reason to have a good contingency fund.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay? Thank you.
You bet. Any questions, guys, before we move on? All righty. Back up to the top of my list here. All right, the next report is the summer projects update from Rusty, Director of Building and Grounds. Rusty Lindsay, I should say your full name, Rusty Lindsay.
I did want to clarify one thing on the playground. We weren't out there shoveling every piece of that dirt out of there. I did hire M&D for a little bit of it, so just so when you see the bill later on, you'll know what it was for. First thing I'd have to do is I have to commend my guys and the staff working with them. They've done a lot of work this summer. They're just about to wrap up all the buildings as far as all of our cleaning and deep cleaning. Jeff took on some projects out at the high school as far as stripping some areas that we didn't strip initially. He's went back in, re-stripped those, and done some polishing on concrete and tried to go some different routes so that we didn't have to go back in and re-wax them, and they look good. The other guys, the elementaries, the middle school, all been working hard, and those projects as far as the deep cleaning for the summer are just about to finish up. Along with that, since we didn't do and the reason we didn't strip this year at the high school, it was the one slated with all the infrastructure work and everything. It just was not gonna work for us to be in there trying to strip floors at the same time they were doing all the work in there. So we delayed it by 1 year. That gave the guys, staff, time to go out and do some other things in the buildings that I know there was dry erase boards that were added at the middle school and the high school and some other projects there that they took on outside of that. So it let us catch up a few of those projects out there. It's at the end of the sheet, and I updated it, but to date we've had 192 tickets turned in for work, and 79 of those are still open for some reason or another, so 113 of those have been completed and that's just since July 1, while we're still doing the other summer projects that you see on the sheet. Most of the summer projects that you see there a lot of them have been completed since I sent this out to you, and the majority of them have since been started. July 29th, we'll be starting the air conditioning and everything back, and that'll take up quite a bit of time at the high school getting ready for enrollment, so that'll start that week. Following week, August 5th, we'll start up the rest of the district and start getting ready for return to school and get every season when we do our startup, we find things that we need to repair. The greenhouse, it's slated to go the week of the 29th. I'm still in contact with Jameson Construction for the replacement. It was hail damage from last fall. Materials are on site. We're just basically waiting for them to coordinate. I don't know if you have questions on this, and I don't know whether you want me to take the time to go line by line, but Carpet projects, floor projects, those type of things are wrapping up. There's a lot of that that's finishing up. The only one that will probably be a little bit still outstanding is the entry carpet at the high school, and that's because it's part of the secured entrances. So they've got to do the secured entrance, and then they're just going to come in and basically repair or install to put a border around to just fill in where the old infrastructure was. The infrastructure at the high school is, the wiring part of it is complete, or is completing this week. There was a little bit of a delay with blocks and some of the materials that way. They asked for a little bit of an extension. I gave them till August 9th to get that in. I didn't see that creating a problem, and if you look on my sheet, you'll see door locks, and I had door locks that I was hoping to have installed by now, and I still haven't received them yet. And that's due to a shortage in parts for the manufacturer. It's the manufacturer that can't supply them. It's not my supplier, it's a manufacturer back order. And that's also affecting Oak Park because they were part of that order. I did have enough locks on hand. They were to help get that part of it so that we could go ahead and do our inspections. And then the company that's supplying the locks has agreed to send out a contractor at their cost to finish the install because they're going to be moved on to another part of the building, so they'll come out and finish the install on that. So they're working with me. They know because they were supposed to be here July 10th, and we're well past that date. Concrete. We are started this week. I'll meet with Brian tomorrow to start looking at what concrete we need to add at the playground at O'Laughlin. And then the following week is when they'll start tearing out this week at the high school for the section of parking lot that we're replacing out there. And then they'll start pouring that next Monday. The rest of it, we've done a lot of tuck pointing this year. The middle school gym, or the middle school cafeteria, dining room, and kitchen area, and then the commons area in front of the gym at the middle school. That roofing is complete with exception of the metal work around it. We're doing tuck pointing and some chimney work and stuff over at Roosevelt, getting ready to start that roofing project, and we'll get that timeline set here. Food services replaced quite a bit of equipment this year. Aaron's been doing a lot of that in-house. We've set 2 walk-ins at Roosevelt and timed it with the roofing so that we could get those flashed in, and also pitch pans set on them. So we're just getting those finished up. Got some tuck pointing at Rockwell and West Side. We've got some of the same thing that we had going on this wall, well, it's actually right here on this wall, where we've got some tuck pointing that's letting water in between the 2 block walls and coming down. We've identified that, and they're going to start that next week, putting that, so that should stop the water coming in on West Side and into the Learning Center. And the rest of it's just basically following up on locks, and I guess the other big one we've got is the move with the ECC, and that will start, it was slated to start on the 29th, but we're going to need 1 day in there for us to do some stuff before we start to move, so we're going to finish that up on Monday the 29th, and the move will start on the 30th.
Okay.
Questions, anything on it that you saw that I can clarify, or?
Is it a full plate?
Yeah, it's been busy.
All right, again, I thank my staff. They put a lot of hard work in this year, so.
Make sure to thank them from us as well.
We'll do that.
I mean, Facebook especially, you can see all the buildings you're talking about. You see everything moved out into the hallways. I mean, it's definitely noticed, so.
Appreciate it, I'll let them know.
All right. Thanks, Rusty. Okay, the next report is Oak Park Medical Complex update. Matt Allen from Paul Wurtenberger Construction.
Well, good evening to everyone. Thank you for having me here again. So Well, we're getting pretty excited. So tomorrow is slated for the fire marshal inspection for buildings 1, 2, and 4. So I was up there earlier today, and there's about 40 to 50 people running around there trying to scurry to get everything done. Floor covering just wrapped up in the building 2. Building 1 and 4 was done. So building 2 finished up over the weekend. Rusty and his staff are coming in and doing the waxing of the VCT area right after we're done with that tomorrow. As you mentioned, we are waiting on some door locks for the doors. But other than that, I mean, all the materials are here. We have started the process of relocating the playground equipment from Washington. We did salvage the rubber mulch from the O'Laughlin playground, so we are going to try to repurpose some of that at ECC as well. So between that and Washington, we did order a little bit. You'll see there is some new bags out there that we had ordered just to do kind of a dressing coat over the areas, but for the most part, the rest of it's going to be repurposed from both O'Laughlin and Washington campus. So trying to reuse what we can. So they are, I'll touch on building 3 a little bit. You know, we've kind of focused on the 3 buildings, obviously, for the timeline. We are starting the drywall work in building 3 this week. It's still our plan to have that building ready for their move at the end of August or whenever they so choose. So the only really last piece to there is the northwest playground area, which is the equipment that will come from the Munger campus. We'll wait to do that and coordinate that with Rusty and his staff when they actually choose to make that move. So, but other than that, everything's gone well, and hopefully we have a positive inspection and review tomorrow from the fire marshal. So I will say we do have another progress meeting this Thursday, so it'd be a good time if anybody wants to come out and tour at least 3 of the buildings, and then
They're usually at 10, aren't they?
10 o'clock, yeah, at our office, and then we'll do a site visit after that. So all are welcome to attend that. I'll open up to any questions.
I look forward to meeting on Thursday. I've had to miss the last couple, I think, so,
Sure.
but they're very informative. It's good to be in the meeting to hear all the discussions about how this is all taking place.
Yep.
And there's a lot going on out there that makes my head swim, so I'm glad you're in charge of that thing.
I pretty much echo his comments. Unfortunately, I will also not be at the meeting on Thursday. I'm out of town, but
Sure.
which I've been regretting because I really enjoyed getting to see it and be a part of it, and so that's kind of like you said today. It's interesting to see all hands on deck and all the intricate pieces that are working at the same time. So I don't envy you overseeing all that.
Very good. Anybody
All right.
other comments, anyone? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, the next report is District Communication. Ron Wilson, Superintendent.
Okay, I know a lot more than I knew the last time I was in this situation. So
Okay.
I'm still gaining ground, but I feel like I've gained some ground over the last 20 days. So got a few things I'd just like to share. First of all, I'd like to echo the shout outs to Rusty and our custodial and maintenance crew. Just these are the kind of dedicated individuals that make this huge engine churn, and could not do it without that crew. Also, I know they haven't got any mention tonight, but our tech crew this summer has been a big time as well, especially with the Early Childhood Connections project and what they've done there. So I want to make sure they get a little love through all this. I'd like to also thank all the board members where I've reached out to you, we've had some one-on-one conversations. I have found those to be very beneficial to me. I don't know if you gained much from me, but it was really good conversations, and it was, I think things like that really give us a start on where our vision is and where we need to go, in direction for the district, and we'll do some more with that later on. Couple of things I do want to make note of. Of course, we're all shooting for August 14th. That's the big calendar item, as we'll be starting school then. But a couple things that are important things that to note that I really would like to draw attention to. Enrollment is coming up here at the end of July, 1st of August, July 31st, August 1st. I think it's interesting, and I thought this was interesting, some data that I thought I'd share. As of today, and this is how times have changed. You know, we have enrollment coming up on July 31st to August 1st. We've already enrolled 21% of our students, and it's July 22nd, so isn't that crazy? With the online enrollment piece, you know, those enrollment days have really changed. We're still going to have the physical location, and people can still come, you know, that feel comfortable, but 21% of our kids have already enrolled, so the direction is changing in terms of enrollment. I think just a reminder to the board, August 6th is our expectation and goal setting session with KSB. That will be on August 6th, just a reminder to the board, and that's a Tuesday. August 7th is new teacher orientation. I found out today we have 33 new teachers coming to the district that will be welcoming on August 7th, which is really exciting. So that will be a big day. And then August 12th is first day back with staff. The thing I do want to mention there is we will have an opening back to school convocation, or exactly, I don't know what they actually call it here, but we'll have the entire staff and district at the Hayes High School Gymnasium. The one thing, I'm drawing a blank on her name, Conradi, Tamara Conradi will be presenting inspired leadership for all district staff from approximately about 8:30 to 10 o'clock. And then following that, that's when the program gets really bad, because I will be taking over at 10 for about an hour. The one thing I do want to extend an invitation to our board, and not that I think I'm all that intriguing or interesting, but there is something I'd like for you to participate in, if it works with your schedule to be there that morning. I understand everyone's busy and has things going on, but if any of you could make it, August 12th, and if nothing else, be there at least 10. I would like for you to come for the entire morning, but I understand that's quite a commitment. So anyone that can come, that would be great. There is something I'd like for you to participate in, if possible. So I'll just leave it at that, and leave it. It's nothing you have to plan for.
Doesn't involve pies and water balloons or something, right?
I'll maybe clue you in a little bit before we get to that point. Another date that I think, and this is actually tomorrow, I think I've shared with you, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we're having a board docs presentation. Board docs is an information management system for school boards. It's something I'm familiar with, something I've used at my previous districts, and I feel like it's would be very beneficial for you guys. It would be very beneficial for Jess as the board clerk, all our employees, and how they, administrators. And so there is a presentation at 2 o'clock. I invite any of you to come if you want. Now, of course, probably need to keep it to 3, just so we're not, in a little room by ourselves and it doesn't look like we're having another meeting. So if I have a bunch, I guess we'll have to draw straws. So I doubt if I have a bunch. So anyway, let me know if you'd like to come, and that way we'll make sure we've got everyone accounted for. The one thing I would like to propose, and this is of course, new guy brings in changes. I'm wanting the board to look at considering the first meeting of each month as the work study session. And this would give us an opportunity to possibly dig in and go through some things. I would like to see each month have a specific topic and it can be decided by the board of certain operations or curriculum or things that are going on in our district. And we'll spend a considerable amount of time talking and discussing about certain functions that are going on. Plus, in addition, we can maybe dig into some things that we're looking at coming up in the following meeting. So I'm looking for some consensus if that is something that you would consider. It would not be a regular business meeting. This would be a work study session. It's still an open meeting. The public is still allowed to come to the work study session, but it'll look much different. We would probably be sitting around a table The agenda is not so much business related, and there's not really necessarily approval of bills, but we could approve bills if needed. It's still a meeting, so there's no issue there, but I'm just looking for some consensus if you're interested in possibly doing this. If there is consensus, I would consider that our August 6th meeting of our goal and expectations meeting, which is on Tuesday following the regular business meeting of August 5th, we would eliminate the August 5th meeting, and our August 6th meeting would be looking at as a work study session. With Gary Seacrest of KSB will be here, but there's also the opportunity for us to, but I do think that will consist a majority of the evening. So I don't know if you have any comments that you'd like to throw at me, but this is a change, I know, from what has been done in the past. I just feel like, especially with me being new, and I think it allows us to maybe talk a little more and try to talk about some things going on in our district and maybe refocus some things.
Well, I haven't had a chance to speak with any board members, and I mean, we're discussing things in meetings, so I really can't have too many in the way, too deep of discussions with board members outside of meetings, but I haven't had a chance to discuss this with anybody. I'm in favor of giving it a shot, and I think it might work out well, and if it turns out that after a year it doesn't work well, then we go back to...
Sure, I mean, at any point, it doesn't mean that we can't immediately, you're still having an actual meeting. It's nothing, if it means that you want to go back to having a more traditional business meeting on that, it's fairly easy to change right away. I just feel like, I would like to, especially this first year, I have lots of topics that I want to dig into, and I think we've got some experts out in the field that we can bring them in and spend that day or evening talking about, whether it's special ed, whether it's finance, whether it's maintenance custodial, go on and on. It could just be a whole slew of topics that each month we spend a considerable chunk of our meeting time on. So
I think the only reason we ever changed it in the past was to approve bills, if I remember right.
yeah,
Because
a lot of things that were
at that
coming
point in
up
time,
and-
we only approved the bills in the main meeting. So
Decisions had to be made.
So
right
as
away.
long as we would still have that ability to approve bills,
Yeah.
or, take action on something if a timeline needed wise, other than that, I'm not against it. I think it'd be fine.
I think I expressed to you, I do like the process we've developed where we have an issue brought up to us in one meeting, and then we have a chance to think about it, and then pass a motion the next meeting. So
Yeah.
if we can still work that into the system, I think it's
I don't
fine.
think that would change whatsoever.
We've worked hard to avoid those, bring up an issue, one meeting, and vote on it the same meeting.
Yeah, and that
It does happen
doesn't,
from time
that
to
doesn't,
time, but we want to avoid that as much as possible.
yeah, no, I don't think that makes for good operations.
Okay.
So
All in favor of it?
You're in favor? Okay, so at this point, everyone's good with, on August 6th, that will be our work study session. We will not have the August 5th meeting, regular business meeting, but August 6th will be our work study session.
Are you going to be switched over to board docs by then?
No, not yet.
We won't have the August
It
5th
won't-
meeting then?
No, we won't have the August 5th meeting,
Okay.
but probably will not have board docs, I would guess not by then. Yeah,
Do you like that, Lance, how he rewards us?
yeah.
If you agree to this, you don't have to have a meeting August 5th.
Well, that's what, unless you guys,
We're having a meeting on August 6th.
Unless you guys really like doing this over
We
and
need
over.
a motion on that, Bill, to change a meeting at this point in time? Okay.
I have a question.
How long is it published? 3 or 4 days
I
ahead?
assume you probably have put some thought into it, but not all the thoughts. How will we go through the process of deciding on a topic and then having
well,
them notice on the
that's
topic?
probably going to be a topic during our August 6th work study session on goals and expectations. I'm going to take suggestions. It's going to be kind of probably a brainstorming session. And then I'll probably, kind of set up a schedule and we can talk about if that works for everyone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured that would be part of our August 6th work study session and looking at possibilities. Things that you maybe are interested in knowing more about or would like to have the opportunity to really discuss. And we'll be bringing in, individuals that or in those areas that have, you know, deeper background. So I think it's sometimes, you know, I think the purpose is sometimes brainstorming, and sometimes in these kind of setting in a traditional business meeting, we don't get a chance to brainstorm as much. And I feel like a work study session will allow us to spend some more time doing that.
On a side note, I'll just announce this. I talked to Ron about this. I think we're gonna try to meet, he and I, every week or every other week on Fridays to discuss issues and help shape the agenda and things like that. So individually, if you have ideas you want me to pass along, you can do that.
Yeah.
Just, you know, letting everyone know we're gonna be,
Yeah.
I want to be more involved as a president and with the superintendent.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have. That's all I have.
Okay, so just so the public is aware, we're not meeting on August 5th, but we are meeting on August 6th. All right, thanks, Ron. Okay, moving on to the action items. Board president appointments. We have in the packet and on the screen appointments by the president of board members to different committees and whatnot. I haven't had a chance to speak with Dr. Paul Adams. I will see if he wants to still be the ECC Policy Council member, unless anybody else wants to volunteer for that spot. I'll stay on the Area Children's Center unless anybody else wants to do so. I would like to get a board member to volunteer for the Technology Committee. We're missing one at the moment. And I don't know, when does this have to be set in stone? It's my appointment, so I assume I have time to.
Yeah, you have time.
I do want to encourage a board member to be on that committee. Lance indicated he is willing to remain on the USD 49 Foundation Board. And Jess, you've been appointed to that too, I see. So can you talk to Curtis, Lance, if you don't mind? I haven't had a chance to do so. And Sophia, are you okay with KSB convention representative? Unless somebody else wants to join that as well. Okay, I don't see anybody volunteering, so I guess you're. And in general, are there any board members that want to be a member of any of the committees at this point? Okay. Well, why don't we leave it as is, even with Paul on there, but I'll check to make sure he wants to do so before next meeting.
Lance, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any desire for that technology committee?
I'll talk with Mike, yeah, I may do it.
I'm just thinking you might be the most qualified. You know, if by chance you decide, I mean, you're already on here, my name is not on there anywhere. If by chance you decide that that's too much for you, I would be on that, I'd be considered for that as well.
Okay.
I just feel you're a little more qualified, so.
Cool.
Very good. All right, I guess we'll move off that topic to the contract for gifted services for USD 407. I think you've done a good job of describing this to us, Chris, already, but if you have anything more to add, please do so.
Just kind of a quick review. Really in the area of gifted, we would treat Russell kind of like a member district to our special ed co-op, so the kids would come here to receive special ed services. We've set up a reimbursement that we feel like is about in line with what our average cost per student is right now, and they would be taking care of transportation and all of that stuff. So,
Okay.
if there's any questions, we'd be happy to try and address them.
I move to approve the contract for provision of education services.
All right, it's been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion before I move on accidentally?
I did have a constituent talk to me today, just worried that this was going to pull away from our resources and our children, and I kind of reassured I didn't think that was going to happen. I even gave your name as a contact and stuff, but I just wanted to, that's not the way this operates, correct?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the concern. It actually, it won't change the day-to-day services for our kids at all. If anything, having a couple more kids, and really we're talking about 6 to 8 kids, I think, right now. So you can imagine it going over 10 to 12 kids total. But having a few more kids in the group, especially at the junior high and high school level, that's a good thing.
Okay.
This is probably a silly question, but like when we look at the financials now, there'll be something about Russell there. Will we be giving money to them, or are they giving money to us?
Yeah, they'll be reimbursing us
So we'll see
based
money
on the
come in
number
from
of
them?
kids. Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll have an additional revenue line.
Okay.
It doesn't increase our expenses really at all because we have room in the classes for the number of kids we're talking about. We'll have one more revenue line in our special ed fund.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, any further discussion? All right, it's been moved and seconded. I'll call for a vote now. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, next item, Hayes High School Storage Building Bid.
Skip one.
Oops, no, I didn't, did I?
Washington property contract.
Oh, okay, I'm going off this. But you're right. Well, the agenda on my computer is slightly different than this. Maybe I'm working up on one.
There was a late revised whatever that came out. I don't know what time,
Is
but
there number 2? I thought I was, okay. The, scratch the Hayes High Storage Building bid, and we'll discuss the Washington property contract addendum. Then we'll go back to Hayes High.
Okay, this last meeting, it was presented, the contract addendum that was presented from Overland Property Group that basically gave an extension to the Overland Property Group to still try and purchase the Washington's school once they, I guess, get tax credits. They were not funded last time with tax credits. They are hoping that by restructuring their rent structure, it will be approved next time. You did receive a letter from the Kansas Housing Commission, and basically, and what they were saying is that there is, I think with the right procedures and restructuring the rent structure, their chances would be greatly improved. Basically, the contract gives the board the opportunity to market this property up until September 30th. So you still have the opportunity to market the property to another buyer, but any offer would have to be equal or greater to the amount that was offered by Overland Property Group. After that, they will, we have to cease marketing the property, and basically they then will take over. They'll give us an amount of $5,000, and then by June 1st, they will notify us whether they receive tax credits or not. And at that point, if they are successful, the contract would then go through, and they would then be paying us $4,000 a month until closing date. I visited with Bill about this. I wanted to make sure everything, what he felt in terms of the contract. Were there any things that maybe I was not aware of? Bill seemed to think that it was all the things were in place. Would be a good idea for the board. I would, at the same time recommend to the board that we sign this addendum and go forward.
if we move forward with this, what's the window that other bids can come in?
Up until September 30th. Starting, the one thing we'd have to do is we would have to do a resolution to, RFP and ask for some bids, but it would have to be by September, 29th or something. And then they would have to be $500,000 or greater. And then at that point, you would have a decision to make what you wanted to do. And Bill, if there's anything that I haven't mentioned that you feel like needs to be talked about?
The only thing, Ron, I might add is that $5,000 they would pay is the districts to keep,
Yes.
whether it closes or not. And
Yeah.
it does not apply to the purchase price if they close. The $4,000 a month would apply toward the purchase price if it closes.
As far as the match on there, the 30 days for them to match the offer on there, that if somebody comes in and offers, 50,000 more than what they did, and they come back and match that, do we then have to wait for them to check on tax credits again, or what are our options there? I mean, does it put us right back where we were before?
It would put us right where we are with another 50,000. Instead of 500,000, it'd be 550,000.
Unless the closing was set for a different time.
Pardon?
Well, if the closing date was set for 30 days from the, if on September 29th, we got an offer for 501,000 to close in 30 days, they'd have to match that offer, right?
They would have to match that offer, yeah.
And so
I
we
think
would
that's
close in
probably
30
right.
days.
Oh, that's what I was asking. So
Yeah,
they would have to
that's
close
right.
as well?
That's
Okay.
right.
That's why I was asking, or did we have
Yeah.
to start over again and wait?
They're anticipating there will not be an offer of 500,000.
Okay.
But they're giving us that option, and I think what they're saying is if somebody wants to pay that much or more, then so be it. We're out.
I think we sign it, but I don't know that we do sealed bids if we're gonna go open it up. I think we just, maybe do, I don't know, but you're gonna be hard pressed to find somebody to give that amount, but.
I would love to sell it to them, but the dates seem really rushed for September 30th. Anyone else feel rushed with that date?
It'd be approximately about a little over 60 days. I mean, I think if a buyer is going to make a bid, they probably are already aware that the property is, available, and they would have 60 days to put together a bid.
Well,
Did we vote last time to go ahead and do sealed bid or no?
We did. The risk, if you don't sign this, is they can yank it at any time.
Right.
So they could call tomorrow and say that's no longer on the table. So
Yeah.
I would actually make a motion, I know it's not set for action, but I'd make a motion that we authorize the board president to enter into the contract on behalf of USD 49, the blanket contract addendum as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So any discussion? Do we want to wait for the next meeting to do this, or we feel comfortable go ahead and voting on this now? And I do feel comfortable, but
Yeah, I'm just a little, I'll probably vote yes on this, but just curious, so the building's gonna be empty now though?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Unless we want to rent it to somebody or do something else.
I just don't know the pros or cons to having a building sit still, or what we would plan to do for the building to just keep it safe and protected, or any of that kind of stuff.
Could be empty for 5 years.
Could be empty for 5 years. It's true.
Yeah. We could get an offer for 700,000. We could not sign this and get nothing and get an offer for 200,000 in December.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's,
Buildings that sit empty don't necessarily go up in value because they're.
I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
I understand your concerns though.
Thanks.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any more discussion? Okay. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, this motion passes 5-0. All right, now I'll move on to the Hayes High Storage Building bid.
Yeah, I asked Rusty to come if he's been working specifically with this bid, and kind of will give you the history and the background on what's going on with this.
Actually, Marty might be part of this conversation too, because I'm going to speak to basically the bid process and the building, but as far as what it's going to be used for and stuff, I'll leave that for him. Just to lay the foundation, though, the superintendent, Mr. Thisson, and I met with Marty and his staff out at their E-building. And basically, we're dealing with storage issues out there and trying to reutilize some of those areas for other programs. The building was talked about last fall. We put it out for bids somewhere in the November, December timeframe. What had taken place, we bid that along with a smaller building, 2 separate bids. The building for the storage and then a smaller building for the kiln that we had purchased to put the kiln in outside the art room. When the bids came in, the low bid did not include a bid bond, which was required in the bid spec. And there was enough difference between it and the next lowest bid that we decided that it would be worthwhile to rebid it. The building for the kiln came in low enough, it was like around $15,000. It was low enough that and it was separate, that we decided to go ahead and do it because it was more time sensitive so that we could get the kiln in and get it put in place. So we went ahead and accepted that because it really didn't go over the $20,000 that required a bid. And then we were going to go through the bidding process to rebid the building at a later date, which we went ahead and started putting the bids together. Well, then the Learning Center project started, and one thing led to another, and some other concerns on some capital outlay money. We decided it'd be better to hold it and look at it in the next fiscal year. We decided toward the end of this fiscal year, when we were looking at finances, that we had the money to do it out of last fiscal year, and we were going to really try to get it done. We put it out for bids to bring into the June board meetings to get it approved, and we got 0 bids. I have no reason why. So we reopened it for bids again. I put it back out for bids again here in the end of June to come into the July-August board meeting, and contacted all the previous bidders, and we received 1 bid out of that group, and that's the bid that you have before you now. It is a little bit higher than what the previous bid is, but I think steel prices have changed also in that time frame on us too. So that's how we got to where we're at. It does meet the bid requirement, and I would recommend it as far as bid.
Okay.
Any questions on that piece of it?
Nope.
When it says metal, is it going to be metal frame as well, or is it?
If you look on the east side of the high school, have you noticed the metal building that we put up out there for fine arts, for music and stuff? That's where they store all their stage stuff. It'll be just identical to that in size and everything, and we'll actually just set to the north of it.
I have never seen that building. Is it like insulated and everything?
It is a metal building. It's insulated. It's cold storage. There's nothing as far as heat or electrical in it. Well, we did put some lighting in that one, didn't we, in the music one? We haven't yet. We just set it up to where we could. We put in the piping for it, but we never did actually put in electrical to it.
Oh, okay.
And then what are we storing? What's the need there?
It's really part of when we lost the second bond issue, we really wanted to get together and decide what could we do in our CTE area that doesn't leave another generation of Hayes High kids behind. And so we really spent a lot of time, and Tom Albers was initially involved with this, and then John Lynn this last year, but met with the CTE folks and really have a plan that's kind of a domino effect. Room 503, which doesn't mean anything to you necessarily, but it's a storage room that really has great capacity to make a television and radio studio, if you will. Right now, it's barely passable because that's where we're putting desks that we will eventually need to use. Teacher file cabinets, science lab tables. We have some round seating for our lunchroom. You know, it's a place where we're trying to store things. It just makes no sense to me as a very frugal guy to go and throw that stuff away just to buy it as our population begins to grow. So it's our effort to try to hang on to those things and not put them in the way of teachers, but as we start to grow our staff and fill all the rooms again, to put those rooms back to good use. 503 will be a very, very good development and project based area. we can tie room 503 and 504 together. 504 right now is our graphic arts with the, really, Oak Park is tied into this vision too, because when the preschools move out of 151, 152, which is in the new area where Hayes area, or PATHs, Parents as Teachers, used to be, when we move our graphics over there, that will allow some movement from Dan Ballman's program, who's listening right now and watching probably, to move into that development and then the project design in 503. Our effort is really to look at the shell that we have. There's nothing wrong with the shell. We have some leaky roofs once in a while, and we work on those things. But generally, trying to take that learning space, make it more flexible, make it more user-friendly, and then really kind of taking it piece by piece. We don't expect to be able to go and move everything all at once, because it doesn't work like that. Heath Mater would be the first move out of room 504 at the Graphic Arts. We would tie 504 and 503 together, tear down the office space that was in there for, decades. I'm not sure why it was put in there, and we really didn't use it much. But that becomes a really nice usable space. So long story short, folks, we're trying to remodel, if you will, redesign at limited cost instead of a new structure. I think we can do a lot with the structure that we have, and we really have given very careful thought to it. And I think we can do so in a very frugal way too, and still make for a nice facility for our kids.
Okay.
But it is all about CTE.
I have one final question, and this is going to sound silly, but is it big enough, and are we spending enough? And that sounds crazy, but let me explain. But I don't know anyone who's ever built a garage and said, "Oh, we just went too big." You know, it's more of a, well, if we had 6 more feet or 10 more feet. And so I'm thinking, is this going to take care of our needs for 5 years, 10 years? Is this? Do we foresee anything else in another year or 2 years where we're going, boy, I wish we would have built it a little bit bigger, or another 30 feet, or doubled it, and then we could have done more, if that makes sense.
Very seldom are schools built with any storage space whatsoever. So I guess compared to what we've been trying to do, honestly, it would be very much appreciated. The other thing I want you to know that part of the plan in that would be to have the other storage building over there was actually paid for in total by the vocal music boosters. And I want to give shout out to Kevin Davidson. He went and got an architect to draw a platform storage in there also. So really we could have a 2-level platform in there. So we really are doing more than just the structure of the building. We will be able to build that platform back there for about $3,000 to $4,000 according to Heartland, and I think it's a good idea. Gosh, I can't see the future, but
Sure.
I would be very appreciative, and I'm telling you that it would allow us to take the first step towards really redesigning CTE without a huge bond issue.
Thank you for explaining the big picture.
You're welcome.
What is the square footage of it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What is the square footage of it?
What's the dimensions? He'll get it
I
for
don't see
you.
it on here either.
It's pretty big. I don't know. But I've been, the one they have for the vocal boosters, I've been out there a couple of years moving furniture around and platforms and stuff in that other building, and it was very large, and it could fit a lot of things.
It really has saved the musical and the spring play and those folks
Yeah.
literally thousands and thousands of dollars to not reconstruct and redesign and go purchase new wood. They just tear apart and reconstruct and paint it. And it's a good use of materials that way too. Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, to get this going, should we have a motion and then we can have some more discussion, or do you want to discuss right now? It's fine with me. Rusty, if you're still here, obviously, you're looking for, you would actually like us to pass this tonight so you can get moving on it. What's your timeline to start, if you?
I hadn't set a time, why not? Because I really figured it was going to go through 2 board meetings, so that's sort of how I'd set everything
Yeah,
up
actually, I was a
for.
little confused myself because it's in the discussion items.
Yeah.
Our normal procedure is to discuss it and then
Yeah,
test it.
I'm really looking at
I won't-
bringing it back
I
at the
won't
next
push it.
meeting, and I'll get you a square footage answer
Okay.
on that by.
All right. I'll slow down a bit.
Sounds great.
All right,
It'd be
thanks.
helpful to know all those other costs for tearing out walls and building classrooms and other things, because I think, those could be substantially more, maybe not, I don't know, but it doesn't make any sense to take step one
Yeah.
if we don't support step two.
Did you hear that discussion, Rusty?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So if you foresee any additional costs from what we discussed, maybe you should include that as well.
I think what, if I understood the question, he's wanting the additional cost for the other steps as far as in the building itself. I understood what he's asking.
Correct.
We'll have to have that conversation. I don't know if that's something I'm going to be able to give you a thorough answer on, but I can maybe get you some budget figures.
Well, timeline, and I know that's not you, but when it would happen, there's just some questions. If we have all this furniture that's going to be used by others at some point, where are the classrooms that it's going to be used in? You know, if so, why don't we just put it there and not build a building? If you've got, you know, questions.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. I will say that I do appreciate, though, that we're looking for ways to improve our district without waiting for a bond, because, you know, if we do that, we'll probably never move ahead on anything. But I agree that we should have a good idea of what things are going to cost before we take that first step. Okay, any more discussion on that issue? Okay, if I'm not mistaken, it's time to move into another executive session. Okay, there's no one objecting, so we'll do that. Okay, I move the Board of Education recess into executive session pursuant the employer-employee negotiations exemption to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The subject of the executive session will be to discuss negotiations between the Board of Education and Hayes NEA. The open session will resume at, Lance, what do you think? We need half an hour, 20 minutes?
I would say 30 minutes.
Okay, and we'll do it at 8:20. Open session will resume at 8:20. The persons to attend in addition to the board are the superintendent, assistant superintendent, executive director of finance and support, the director of special education, and do we want the benefit specialist? Is she still here? I saw Faith walk by. Okay, so scratch that. That's it.